Now, we begin with the disputed 2022 governorship election in Osun State. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has reinstated Ademola Adeleke as the governor of the state, delivering judgment in the appeal filed by Governor Adeleke this Friday. A three-member panel of justices held that the election tribunal erred when it ruled that former Governor Gboyega Oyetola and the All Progressives Congress APC proved their allegation of overvoting. According to the panel, Adeleke is a duly elected governor of the state. Did you see this coming?
Yes, I always expect anything. And I told some of our colleagues yesterday that I wasn't sure that they would get that Oyetola will get judgment at the Supreme Court. Something just told me that he will not get it. And, you know, of all the courts in our country,
yeah,
the appeal court is the most unpredictable. The appeal court is the most unpredictable. If you go back in time, you'll see that it is the Supreme Court that people find the most reliable in matters like this. Because, one, Supreme Court is the final court now. Whatever it is that the lower courts decide, that decision can be tested at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court may have a different view. You know? For example, Osun after the 2015 election, lost at the tribunal, lost at the appeal, and the Supreme Court rescued him. Not just him, even the governor of Cross River, Akwa Ibom at that time. Okay. As for Seyi Makinde, he won at the tribunal, lost at the appeal, and then got rescued by the Supreme Court. So the way it is now is 1-1 score draw. It's 1-1 score draw.
Or goalless
draw. They live to fight again. No, it's 1-1. Okay. You have one, I have one. It's not goalless, you know. So they live to fight at the Supreme Court. What I found intriguing about the judgment is the position of the court on overvoting.
Okay.
Because the whole
that was
the
an issue
victory,
at the tribunal.
Yes, the victory itself was anchored on overvoting. And now, once that prayer is not granted, you've lost the case. Even if you had like 5 other cases resolved against you, that key prayer, once it's not resolved in your favor, you've lost the case. Now, the tribunal said they did not prove overvoting, that Oyetola's lawyers did not prove overvoting, that they didn't bring experts. But their own argument is, look, we brought a statistician, a retired statistician, you know, who worked at the MBS,
okay,
you know, which is the headquarters of statistics generation in our country. He worked there, retired there.
That's the National Bureau of Statistics.
Yes, so they are convinced that that person is an expert in that field. The tribunal was, the appeal court was not convinced that they actually got an expert to prove that issue conclusively. Then the tribunal also said they should have used the voters register to prove overvoting. Again, I am at a loss as to what the tribunal, the appeal court sought to achieve by that, because the law has been amended, and based on the 2022 Electoral Act, it is overvoting would be discovered electronically. You can't use, because the beavers machine is the electronic accreditation module that the INEC uses. It is the beavers report that will determine whether overvoting took place or not really the voters register. Because the beavers is the machine that accredits people.
Yeah. Directly involved.
Yes. So it is the beavers machine that can actually determine whether overvoting took place. But here is the appeals tribunal saying, no, you should have used, you did not use the voters register to establish overvoting. I'm really confused about that. I'm not a lawyer, but I know, yes, this is the first time that the Electoral Act 2022 is being
put to the test.
Put to the test in court.
Yeah.
But to me, it looks logical that once the law has been amended and INEC has established beavers as the electronic accreditation module, if you didn't do accreditation or overvoting took place, it is still that beavers that will be able to establish
All
that.
right. All right.
But now they were told that they didn't use the voters register to establish overvoting, and that was injurious to their case. Well, since since the Supreme Court is still there, both parties will be able to have their matter decided for the Supreme Court.
Mayor, I'm sure you can already guess they are going to the apex court.
Of course.
But you know, Napoleon Bonaparte said, in politics, when your enemy is making a mistake, don't interrupt him.
Yes, I am, because now the governor has the judgment in his hand, and its victory has been validated. So it is former Governor Oyetola that will go to the Supreme Court to go and establish the fact that there was overvoting, because the basis of their argument was that there was overvoting. And I agree to, like Jide said, that the register has nothing to do with overvoting. It has to do with beavers, because the beavers will accredit. So it is number of accreditation, people that have been accredited to vote. You understand? If we now have more than that, that is the establishment of overvoting. But I think what the appeal court was trying to say is that you didn't try to they didn't try to convince them the number of voters that is available in each those polling units before the accreditation. And then that is one aspect of it that I think will be tested in the Supreme Court, because beavers is, INEC has electoral guidelines, and beavers is supposed to accredit voters. So it is the people that were accredited during that process that were supposed to vote. So any votes that is more than that is overvoting. But I think maybe what helped Governor Adeleke's case was the fact that INEC also came to court. INEC also came on his side and said there was no overvoting. And that is a very strong case for him, because INEC is the umpire in charge of that election. So if they say contrary to what Oyetola said, or Oyetola said, that got them that relief, that there was no overvoting, I think that also played a major part in that
and the court
election.
is not a Father Christmas. It gives, answers the prayers
you ask for, yes.
That's it. Jide, but again, you know, that the process, the electoral process in my country is not free of this small wahala. It is something that boggles the mind.
Yes, but I know that this kind of case now, in these last two series of elections that we've had, beavers was largely used, very active, and many people have realized that they can't do overvoting. So INEC cancelled so many election in so many registration units
yeah.
because of overvoting. Just listen to them when they are presenting their reports, those returning officers. They will say, so number of invalid votes. How did the invalid votes come about?
Right, yeah.
They will tell you that as a result of overvoting, they cancelled results from some polling centers. That is what the law says. Even if there's overvoting by 1 vote, the result in that place will be will be cancelled. If violence rears its head at a polling station, is the same law that will prevail. The election will be cancelled in that area. So INEC and other stakeholders sought to find a way to solve the problem of overvoting. Beavers did not just materialize. Beavers was introduced to stop ballot rigging in our country, especially through the instrumentality of this incident form and all that, whereby you just tell people to line up, whether they are registered to vote in that area or not. You just give them a form to fill, they fill the form, they go and vote. With beavers, you can see that even the quantum of votes coming from some locations, from locations where we used to receive reports of over 1 million votes and all that. It's no longer happening.
Yeah.
It's no longer happening. You know, apart from Kano, where we know them that by their voter behavior, by their political culture, they vote a lot.
Fruits, as they say.
There's nowhere else where over 1 million votes was recorded. It was in Kano in the governorship election that we recorded that the candidate recorded over 1 million votes. Even in the presidential election, they didn't get up to 1 million votes, although it could be argued that because you had Asiwaju also on the ballot, Asiwaju got, I think, about 500 or something,
600 or something.
From Kano. So the point that I'm making is these beavers is a tool by which we can guide against multiple voting. It's a tool by which we can guide against overvoting. But if courts now brush it aside and are talking about, what's it called? Voters register. That means they are taking us back to Egypt. And once we've left Egypt, thanks to the parting of the Red Sea,
we are not looking back.
We can't go back. Because you have to take a decision.
Yeah.
Former National Security Advisor of our country, Major General Sali Mukhtar, when I was in the NYC camp in Zaria, he came to the camp and said, see, now that you guys are here, I don't want you to go back to your states anymore. You have to take a decision to stay here. And he said something that I kept in my head since then. He said, you either decide to go to the right or to the left because the center is a ditch. You know? So Seriki Mokhtar, Major General Seriki Mokhtar, you know, I still remember we don't have to go back. To go back is to go to the era of bare face rigging, in your face rigging, whereby you simply can't do anything about it.
You are helpless.
Now, if you want, people, even when they tell you, help this person now, help him to win this election, you always remember beavers. You always remember beavers. Because the beavers is there to also help you upload result to the IRF, you know, just to ensure that layout transparency. So now you say we should check voters register. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm intrigued that voters register is now being. I believe that the Beavers report should actually be able to tell us whether
All
there
right.
was overvoting.
Okay, without preempting the apex court, let's wait. In politics, anything is possible.